let's dig into retail a little bit. So Alibaba has been talking about new retail now for a while, and they've got a couple of great examples of what new retail looks like. How are you seeing this playing out from a ANZ perspective, and are some of these ANZ retailers sort of leading in that way?
Great. So I think some of the interesting things with Alibaba happening around what we call autonomous stores are very inspirational. But number one, what we really want to consider is this is all happening in the world's greatest lab because there are no privacy considerations for one, and it's all new architecture for two.
Yeah.
Most of our retailers don't have that luxury. Trust is topical with them, and they have legacy investments they need to consider. So I think there's a road to autonomous stores, and they can really start with some simple things to remove that friction and have that aspiration. But it's going to be tough to turn that switch on overnight, as we're seeing in China, because we do have those sort of traditional barriers in our market in the Western world.
Yeah. When you start to think about, from a consulting perspective, you obviously consult to some of the largest retailers in the ANZ market. Who are some of those that are really leading from a sort of a real-time customer engagement perspective?
Well, funny you should ask that, Scott. I'm seeing kind of two divisions of our retailers. There's the ones who have the capability in-house and really are embracing digital transformation. And as much as they're a retailer, they're also a technology company. So I think in the supermarket space, Woolworths is doing an amazing job. We've seen the pace of change there. We've even felt that customer experience change very quickly. So they're a great example. We see the likes of Bunnings really investing with their online, bringing more digital in. And then when we see some of our more mid-markets, they're thinking around partnerships and taking a different approach to also bring that in, embrace digital transformation, but they also know they don't have hundreds of developers in their organization to start developing their own IP. So we look at it almost in those two camps, and I think most retailers in reality are trying to sort out what do we do uniquely well, where we might have some unique IP, and what is commoditized and we can embrace in partnerships and in our roadmap for our technology investments.
Now, we both work for sort of technology companies, and sort of AI is a hot topic at the moment. How do you see some of these retailers using sort of the artificial intelligence, machine learning to kind of scale up personalization and be able to talk to lots of different customers, not just sort of tens of, but maybe hundreds of different audience segments?
So what I think is really interesting in AI right now is the adoption we're seeing on bots. It can even be simple things. So if we take a retailer like Macy's, they were able to take a lot of their data around the commonly asked questions from a customer, and even the behavior of a customer to drive suggestions. And the bots are automating, and they're taking a lot of not only the friction out of the experience, but they're also removing a lot of the volume into the call center. They're also collecting incredible amounts of data, and as a result, Macy's is learning more about their customers and how to personalize further. And really the next step for all this might be to equip some of the people in the stores with this type of technology so that they can make suggestions and take away some of those basic tasks and spend more time with the customer. So I'm really excited about bots as a first stepping point for personalization and customer experience.
So when it comes to personalization, what are some of those pitfalls that retailers really should be looking out for? What are sort of the 3, 4, 5 ones that you would sort of think of as top of mind?
Great. Well, one would be, we all hear it, is the creepy factor. So with the promise of personalization, there's actually value exchange, and the customer knows what they have opted into, being paramount. And this new consideration that we have with the algorithms and the data sets, but the ethics behind it. So it might be personalization, but if the suggestions aren't right, maybe it could offend, a retailer could lose that trust. So retailers really need to think about, are these rich data sets? What is the inherent bias behind this data? Because we know suggestions, let's say using facial recognition for personalization, might be really great for white males today, may not be as good for people of diversity or women.
Sure.
So the algorithms working with Adobe or Microsoft, we are really working behind the scenes to have those ethics. And I think we're getting to the point now where marketers are also going to need to think about this stuff as well.
You kind of touched on the creep factor, and GDPR has got a lot of airtime. We kind of struck with this dichotomy between customers wanting more sort of personalized offers and personalized experiences, but at the same point in time, they're also pushing companies to be much more secure around their data and their privacy. How do we sort of balance this? What's a great approach to be able to do it?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So Microsoft, we have GDPR standards globally, even though we're not sitting in Europe. And we really see that as a differentiation and trust for us, as I'm sure retailers do as well. So taking that approach, and I think it being very open and transparent, and that as a differentiator. The challenge everyone has, and you probably experience this as well, you're getting a lot of emails to opt back in. I started wondering, who's not sending me this?
Yeah.
And I started wondering also about these retailers, the re-opt-in, how many customers are they losing? But I think we're all learning. I'm kind of excited to learn more about the space and start to look at these numbers. But I do believe we will come to an era where that control of our data becomes very important to us, and we will be very loyal in who is giving us the value exchange and respecting that.